Welcome back to part 4 of my developer overview on Treasure. And I know what you're thinking. It is about time, right? So I'm finally getting back to this series and I'm going to finish it up. And so part 4 is going to be only on a single game, which is kind of an oddity in Treasure's output. And that game is Light Crusader, which was released in 1995 for the Mega Drive or Genesis in the United States. And this is odd because of the genre. It's an isometric action RPG. And this is sort of unusual for Treasure and also unusual for Japanese games in general. Now the isometric RPG is generally known or generally sort of associated with the PC and also with Western releases. And you can sort of trace that all the way back even to like the ZX Spectrum had a ton of these isometric RPGs. So at any rate, they're not as prevalent in Japan, and especially not back in the 90s. So it's kind of interesting, and I'm going to actually talk about 2 other games very briefly that I think are predecessors to Light Crusader. Now the first one is also a Genesis release, and this one's pretty well known and usually compared to Light Crusader, and this one is Landstalker. So let's take a look at this one.
I could tell this one's going to be good already. As one might expect, there's a fair amount of exploration to be done in this game, and you collect currency and use that to buy various items throughout the game. Now you also have to solve little puzzles and use objects to get different places in the game. Again, this is a pretty standard feature of any kind of action RPG. I do wish there was a little bit more combat though. Additionally, you talk to various characters throughout the game to get little bits of information that propel the story forward and give you clues as to where to go next. Now, it's not without its downsides also, and the biggest is the control. Normally, you would rotate the D-pad so that up would go sort of up and to the right and etc. This one doesn't, so you have to use the diagonals, and you can see here I'm having kind of a hard time getting into this door, and honestly, this is not me, messing around. This really the difficulty that I had with it. Also, there are some other sort of unusual glitches or trouble with playing the game, as you can see here in just a second. As you can see, this priest is very helpful. Along with the kind of iffy D-pad controls, some of the jumping is a little tough to control. But I do like the fact that the bubbles scream when you hit them. There are lots of different areas in this game to explore, and most of it's pretty easy to unlock. And I really like the graphics in this game. I think it does a great job with the Genesis's capabilities. Also, your life meter is pretty substantial, and given the fact that there aren't too many enemies in this game, it's pretty easy to keep it full up and not die that often. I'm just a little disappointed that I can't play this piano though. Come on. So all in all, this is a really fun game, and I think this sets the stage for Treasure's own effort.
So now that we've taken a look at Landstalker, I just wanted to stop just for a second and throw out my caveat that although a lot of people do say that Landstalker directly influenced Light Crusader, I'm not willing to make that claim because Treasure has never publicly acknowledged that it has. But what I will say is that Landstalker is a similar sort of game, and it it sort of proves that this whole isometric thing can work well on the Genesis and also be popular in Japan. So this is out there. Now the interesting thing is, one of the things that separates the two games quite a bit is Landstalker is sort of heavy on the puzzle elements, but maybe not quite as much on the action part, on the platforming, the battles, this sort of thing. Now they certainly exist in that game, but not nearly to the level of most Treasure games. So I wanted to take a look at another game that I think they probably knew about. It was released a year before Light Crusader, and that is Dungeon Magic, at least as it's known in the West. It was arcade only, and it was released on the Taito F3 system. And that's what I have here. This is not Dungeon Magic, this is Twin Cobra 2, but I just wanted to show you what the system looks like. You have your sort of normal JAMA motherboard, and then you have cartridges that are interchangeable for this. And this is also available on the Taito Legends 2 collection on the PS2. There's some really other good stuff on here too, so definitely pick this up if you don't have it. And this is where I captured the footage. Now, interestingly enough, the Japanese title for Dungeon Magic was actually Lightbringer. So, again, I'm not trying to sort of start up some conspiracy theories, but they certainly would have been familiar with the game. And what's interesting about this one is we also have sort of an isometric overhead view, and it's kind of the same look to the world. You know, we have knights and all of these sorts of things, but since it's an arcade game, it's more of kind of a brawler. But it's very unusual in that it's a brawler with RPG elements. So you have leveling up, you have item collection, all of these various things. You can choose your own path. So without further ado, let's just take a look at that.
Dungeon Magic.
So once again, we have the isometric point of view, we have the similar themes here, but this one is much more action-oriented, and of course the graphics are much better on this, but this was an arcade release, so that's to be expected. Once again, you pick up various life-up items, power-up items, as you can see me trying to get off of this chest here. I power up my sword, and you do that at various points throughout the game. And you also collect gold and other various items. The combat system in this game is also slightly evolved. You have your normal attacks, different swings and whatnot, and you can see me performing a special move here. And your different characters all have special moves that you can perform. Now, another difference here is you have these giant bosses and some really epic boss battles, and this is something that we'll definitely see in the Treasure game. And of course, none of these games would be complete without the old floor spikes.
Okay, so now we're on to the main event, Light Crusader. Like I said, it was released in '95 to the Mega Drive / Genesis. And this is very odd in Treasure's output. They're really their only RPG, although there are RPG elements in other games. And it still remains their only RPG. So, yeah, now that I've shown you those other two games that preceded it, we'll see maybe how their styles sort of combine, whether intentionally or not, into Light Crusader. And also, it should be noted there's a number of little quirks here and there as well that are sort of, treasure specialties. So let's take a look.
Right off the bat, they let you know this is going to be a serious game with this very cinematic intro. And I enjoy that. Koenig Ishida, I guess they're maybe tipping their hat to the great European isometric role-playing games. But also the audio in this is really great. The soundtrack is well done, and it really shows the capabilities of the Mega Drive's sound chip, which is not something that you can say all that often. So anyway, I'm just going to let you watch the rest of the intro here. From the beginning, you can tell this is going to be a very story-driven game, although it's certainly not without lots of action. So here you meet with I think he's the king or something of that nature, and he sort of sets the stage for you for your grand quest, and it is going to be a long one, trust me. And given the length of the quest, it's a good thing that there are lots of save points, and they are pretty generous with those, so that's very helpful in playing this game. Also, there's the usual amount of item collecting. You can see here there's the potion sitting on top of the bookcase that you can get. And there are different potions and various items spread throughout the game, so be sure to look in all the different places for those. And again, you're going to be talking to various townspeople, trying to figure out what's going on. And, this all helps to move the story forward. Now, also, there's various shops that you can go to, weapon shops, etc., and upgrade your weapons by different things that you'll need throughout your quest. And then there's this. And be warned, once you go in there is no turning back. You're going to have to sit and listen to her play no matter what you do. You can't press a button to stop it. Nothing will do anything. But you also can talk to this rude artist. And spoiler alert, the first big challenge that you come to is the cemetery, where you'll knock one of these tombstones aside, and that will open up the stairs into your first dungeon experience. And of course, no dungeon would be complete without the Phantasy Star-esque blob creatures. Now, although they've fixed the controls so that up is sort of up and to the right and etc., the platforming sometimes in some of these areas, as you can see here, is actually, I guess I just walked off of that, but regardless, it is a little trickier than it looks on the video, so you do have to get used to that, but it's not too bad. In addition to the save points, there are also a couple of places where you can restore your health, which is very handy. So you'll definitely want to remember where those are. Especially when you're jumping around these spikes with sort of finicky controls.
Thank you.
I suppose no treasure game would be complete without a certain level of weirdness. Next up we'll have this battle area here. When you walk into this room, you have to battle these skeleton warriors here who are being controlled by this wizard. And once you defeat them, you'll be allowed to go into the next room. You can see the gate is down there. And the only way to get into the next room is to defeat them. So you'll need to brush up on your combat skills. There are other places where it's not combat that'll get you into the next room, but rather solving a puzzle. And this is something that will happen more often than not. You see here, there's a thing there that actually opens the door. In other rooms, you have to move these exploding barrels in front of the door and then hit them, and you'll have a certain amount of time to get out of the way if I can hit it correctly here. And then those will blow the doors open. Now, do beware though, once you leave the room and come back, if you come back from the other way, the puzzle will be there for you to do again. So it's kind of something that I didn't particularly like about the game, but you get used to it and you learn to be very careful about where you go. And here we have another of the usual treasure quirks. This room is not very far into the first dungeon, and if you kill one of these enemies, it's kind of a randomized thing, but if you kill one of them, you can actually get the best armor in the entire game. So if you get that, then you can keep it from then on. Now, I didn't get it because I stayed there and kept killing them and it never would come up, but I do know that that is there. So yeah, it's kind of an interesting little tidbit on the game there. That one of the best armor in the game would be in one of the early rooms if you know where to find it. Another hallmark of a treasure game are just really epic boss battles, and you'll certainly find those in this game. And some of these bosses can be very tough and will put your platforming skills to the test. So all in all, this is a great game, lots of fun, and hopefully you can see how perhaps it was influenced by its two immediate predecessors. It also goes for fairly reasonable prices these days, especially compared to other treasure games. So if you don't have this in your Genesis or Mega Drive collection, definitely pick this one up.